Good evening. It is the 16th of April 2019. This is Broadcasting Scotland at 7. We started the programme last night with the terrible fire at Notre Dame in Paris, and we're going to continue that story on for you now. To give it a little bit of depth and a bit of reasoning, I thought we had to go back a wee bit in history, because the building was there for 850 years. In the times when the Bible became the book of the day, and it was for many centuries, of course, and still is for many people now, the Bible contained everything that one needed to know, everything. Before that, we had Aristotle, and he gave us a picture of the world. And I found a little piece from a French philosopher. He was called Jean of Jourdan. And he was a man who lived in the 13th century, and he upheld and defended Aristotle. But he said this of Notre Dame: "Where indeed, I ask, would one find two towers of such magnificent and perfection, so high, so large, so strong, clothed around and about with such a multiple of variety of ornaments? Where, I ask, would you find such a multiplicity of arrangements and so many lateral vaults above and below?" Some of the timbers of the Notre Dame Cathedral were 400 years old before they were cut down to become part of the structure of this magnificent cathedral. So it has a link to the United Kingdom, because King Henry VI of England was crowned there in 1431. He was crowned King of France, and Joan of Arc, of course, was put to the stake there and was burnt in 1456. Yesterday evening, this building, 850 years old, was razed to the ground by a fire that lasted about 30 minutes. Some of the structures still there, obviously the stone bits, and we then move now, obviously because it's been destroyed. A lot of the stained glass was destroyed, and the spire. But Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, said, "We will rebuild," and he praised the courage and the professionalism of the firefighters. Donations to rebuild the structure have already amounted to over 600 million euros. And the Air France company have offered to free flights to any person who needs to travel to France to help with the reconstruction work. Donald Tusk, the president of the European Council, has asked all 28 nations of the European Union to help fund the rebuilding, and we've got a video of that now.
From this place, I would like to say words of comfort and solidarity with the whole French nation in the face of the Paris tragedy. I say these words not only as the President of the European Council, but also as a citizen of Gdańsk, 90% destroyed and burned, and later rebuilt. You will also rebuild your cathedral. From Strasbourg, the French capital of the European Union, I call on all the 28 member states to take part in this task. I know that France could do it alone, but at stake here is something more than just material help. The burning of the Notre Dame Cathedral has again made us aware that we are bound by something more important and more profound than treaties.
Yes, and Donald Tusk making the very important point that the European Union is not just an economic club. There was some speculation over the internet about terrorism, but this has been totally refuted by the police in France. There was no terrorism at all involved in this incident. But the men who were working on restoration of the building last week removed 16 copper statues, and they have been interviewed by the police, not for removing the statues, but because obviously the police felt it could have been something to do with the work. The investigation is ongoing, and if there's any indication of what has caused the fire, of course, we'll try to report that to you at a later stage. There's a report here, well, it's actually a press release from Bishop Hugh Gilbert, President of the Bishops' Conference of Scotland. He said this: "Suddenly we realise what our churches can mean to a city, to a great nation and beyond. Here in Scotland, our hearts go out to the people of the Archdiocese of Paris, and to all in France and elsewhere who treasure the beautiful Cathedral of Notre Dame. Like the crowds last night, we stand in silent solidarity, reassured that there has been no loss of life and that the substance of the building has been saved. The resolve to rebuild is uplifting. Already there's a generous response from many quarters. And beyond that tragedy, Easter remains. Fire cannot thwart the essential purpose of Notre Dame or any church building. Wherever it may be, God's people, the living stones, will still come together to celebrate the resurrection of Christ and the hope to reassert itself." So that's from the Bishop Hugh Grant, and it was all about Notre Dame that burnt down last evening. We move now to our next story, which again is, guess what? Come on. I can't hear you. Brexit. The Institute for Government is a leading think tank working to make government more effective. Negotiating Brexit, preparing for the tasks of the UK's future relationship with the EU. The UK risks stumbling into the next phase of negotiation with the EU without a plan, putting the country at unnecessary disadvantage, so a report by this think tank says today. Now, you must recall that Donald Tusk has said and Michel Barnier has said that there will be no future relationship talks until the United Kingdom has agreed the exit proposals. And that must be to pay the bill and to sort the citizens' rights and to organise the Irish border. So this report is looking forward. The report also looks at what has gone on. The report looks at what went right and wrong with the negotiations up until now and makes recommendations about how the government should approach negotiations about the future relationship, which it says will be tougher. They have to agree the withdrawal bill, as I've told you before, but the report says that the problems in the first stage were the political level. The absence of cabinet agreement on the shape of the future economic relationship. Politicians on the government backbenches had no confidence in the United Kingdom's official negotiators. They had no confidence in the United Kingdom's official negotiators. The things went right, but there were things that went right in the negotiations and did succeed. And they give an example of that the Euratom negotiations, and they went right because the UK government decided on its objectives early and engaged with specifics. The report says that before negotiations begin on any future relationship, the government should agree on and then publish its ambitions for the future relationship, without drawing any so-called red lines. Constitutional Relations Secretary Michael Russell said today, with the Brexit deadline extended until the 31st of October, the extra time must be used properly and wisely, allowing for all parties and the devolved governments to be properly consulted and involved. The Prime Minister must drop her red lines, which have led to the Brexit impasse. He went on to say that what I would want to see at this stage is either no Brexit, that's a rescinding or revoking of Article 50 process, or at the very least a referendum on the choices before us. He added, I would not accept a situation where Scotland was taken out against her will, and that would be impossible to do. So, there's Mike Russell speaking today. Now, climate change, I do beg your pardon, I've gone ahead a little bit too much, and I wanted to do this because I was thinking of it and then my mind was distracted. But we're going to go to the European Parliament now. There's been some altercation between Guy Verhofstadt and Donald Tusk today in the Parliament in Strasbourg. And I think we've got a bit of video of Donald Tusk now.
I have strongly opposed the idea that during this further extension, the UK should be treated as a second category member state. No, it cannot. Therefore, I also ask you to reject similar ideas if they were to be voiced in this House. I know that on both sides of the Channel, everyone, including myself, is exhausted with Brexit, which is completely understandable. However, this is not an excuse to say, let's get it over with, just because we are tired. We must continue to deal with Brexit with an open mind and in a civilized manner. Because whatever happens, we are bound by common fate and we want to remain friends and close partners in the future.
If the United Kingdom is a member on the 23rd of May, it must organise European elections. If it does not do so, and the withdrawal agreement is not ratified by the 22nd of May, the extension ends on the 31st of May. This is now the legal situation. Thirdly, we have made sure that we do not need to discuss Brexit every other week and have given the United Kingdom the time and space to find a way out of the impasse.
Instead of sending Mrs. May back to London with no extension at all, or maybe with an ultimately very short one, a few days, a week, you give her 6 months. But 6 months, everybody knows that on the 31st of October, it's in fact too near for a substantial rethink of Brexit, and at the same time, too far away to prompt any action. That's the problem with the decision that has been taken. And I would not go so far as Corbyn here, who would call it rubbish, because he calls everything rubbish in the Parliament. But I fear that it will continue the uncertainty. I fear that it will prolong the indecision. And I fear most of all that it will import the Brexit mess into the European Union. And moreover, that it will poison the upcoming European election.
Catherine Barder is sitting behind Guy Verhofstadt there. Catherine Barder is one of the UK representatives in the European Parliament. In response to what Guy Verhofstadt had to say, Donald Tusk said that Guy Verhofstadt should deeply rethink and reformulate his argument, since he was heartily and energetically applauded by Nigel Farage. So Brexit rumbles on, and it will rumble on, and it will rumble on and on and on for a long, long time yet, because there's no, it's nowhere near completed what's going on with that. And here's another story that will not complete in a very short period of time, but it's possibly more important. And indeed, there were questions in the Parliament about this today, the European Parliament today, where people have been suggesting that this is a far more important issue than Brexit. Today, Greta Thunberg from Sweden, she's a 16-year-old, and she's been the center of worldwide protests by school pupils all over the world. All over the world, school pupils have been striking on a Friday afternoon. And she started this movement, the school strike movement. And indeed, back in March, it was the 5th of March, and we reported on this at Broadcasting Scotland. The Edinburgh City Council agreed that children could be absent to support the action on the 15th of March this year, and they would not be penalised for doing so. Councillor Mary Campbell, who put forward the motion, said that climate breakdown is the defining issue of our age. The future will depend on how willing we are to listen to children and young people whose futures are most at risk, versus some politicians and vested interests who want to delay or do nothing. Today, Greta, she was in the European Parliament in Strasbourg, and she addressed the Assembly. She said several things. She said this: our house is falling apart, and our leaders need to start acting accordingly, because at the moment they are not. It is not too late to act. It will it will take research, reaching vision and fierce determination. In other words, it will take cathedral-like thinking. My plea is, please wake up and do the seemingly impossible. I think it would be better to hear Greta say it for herself. And she's at a press conference. We've got some video of a press conference of her now.
I take the floor first, but you can stand up.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here, for attending this press briefing with Greta Thunberg. We are really happy that Greta accepted the invitation by the President of the Parliament and by the Environment Committee to attend today and to meet the President first. The meeting just took place, and then at 2 p.m. the Environment Committee. Greta is going to address you to tell you why she came to the European Parliament, and then of course there will be the possibility to take some questions. Greta, please.
Hi. My name is Greta Thunberg. I am a climate activist from Sweden, and I received an invitation to speak in here, and I accepted it because this is a great opportunity to get out a message and to sort of speak on behalf of the young people who share the same concern as me, concerns about the climate crisis and ecological breakdown. So yeah.
Good. Yes, questions? But
tomorrow you're going to meet the Pope. What are you going to tell the Pope?
I don't know yet, but probably something about climate.
next question.
What are your expectations, Greta, and what do you want to say to all young Europeans? What should they take as an opportunity to help fight climate change?
To the young Europeans fighting for their future, I would say that you should continue because you are doing a great job. There has been hundreds of thousands of students in Europe only who have been school striking for the climate, and they have made history, I think. So they should be very proud of themselves. And also, right in this moment, there's a demonstration taking place in Strasbourg with many young people. So,
Next question.
What did you tell Tajani?
Just like the usual. Thank you for having me here, and it's important that we must fight for this and so on.
So what do you expect from European politicians? What do they have to do?
I expect them to take action now, because there's not much time. We still have an open window that is not going to be open for long, in which we can act. So we need to take that opportunity to do something, and they should really do something.
Charlotte.
Greta, välkommen. Do you think it's important to vote in the European elections, and do you think it's a good way for young people to influence lawmaking against global warming?
I think it's essential to vote in the European election. I'm not going to vote in the European election because I can't, and so therefore it's especially important for those who actually can vote to use that in order to speak on behalf of people like me who are going to be affected very much by this crisis, and we don't have much to say about it, so they should really take that opportunity to take the chance to influence the decisions.
You're a huge influencer.
Excuse me. Next question there, please.
Hi, Greta. What do you think young people can do besides demonstrating? Is there something in concrete they can already do to change things today?
There are many things young people can do to change the situation, to improve the situation. Especially, I think, to put pressure on people in power and older generations, because they are the ones who can influence the most. But also there are many things we can do as well on an individual level to change our habits. For instance, to try to live as carbon neutral as possible. But I think the most important thing they can do is to try to understand the full meaning of the situation and what is happening and what is going on and what is required to stop that from happening.
One next question, maybe? Yes, please.
I mean, you've been doing this now for, soon almost a year. How are you coping physically, psychologically, doing all these travels, doing all these meetings, continuing the protest?
I don't mind continuing. Of course, it's sometimes... I mean, the emissions are still increasing, but that I had expected, of course. But personally, I think it's... I feel happy that I am doing something that is... I feel needed. I feel like I'm doing something important, and that I think is very important for people to feel, because many people don't feel that today, and I think that is sad, because more people should feel like that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, but the last one, and then it's over. Thanks.
Now, you had quite many meetings with political leaders. Do you feel that they listen to you?
That we will have to see if they take action now. So, but I hope they are listening.
Makes you feel very humble to see a young woman like that, doesn't it? Extraordinary command of the English language, and obviously she can speak Swedish and heaven knows what else, and she stands there quite unfazed by all these big newspaper and TV and radio reporters. Absolutely amazing. And I'll read out what she said again. Please wake up and do the seemingly impossible. Please wake up and do the seemingly impossible. I think we should all get T-shirts with her face on them, with that slogan under it. Please wake up and do the seemingly impossible. And she's not the only one who's been banging on about climate change today, because a group we reported on last night, the guys and girls who took all their clothes off in the House of Parliament a couple of weeks back, they've been drawing attention to themselves and creating quite a bit of chaos. Extinction Rebellion, who they've been on the North Bridge in Edinburgh this day. Been a lot of police down there too, apparently, and they're expected to continue to go until 9 o'clock this evening, so another hour and a quarter. If you're travelling home from work, you might like to stay behind and have a cup of coffee. But this is a serious thing. There apparently have been no arrests in Edinburgh, but there's a different story down in London. But they have 3 specific aims. I'll read them to you. To tell the truth. Now, whether that's them telling the truth or getting other people to tell the truth, I'm not quite sure, because it wasn't specific on the documents I read. But they wish to have a zero carbon society by 2025. Then the other thing is they want a citizens' assembly to address ecological issues. South of the border, down in England, they've been actually stopping the traffic, and 200 arrests have taken place by the police in London. They've admitted the protests have made significant challenges to the travel in and around London. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, said that he did share the passion of the activists, but was extremely concerned about plans to disrupt the London Underground tomorrow. He said it's absolutely crucial to get people to use public transport to tackle climate change. And of course, if there's a disruption, more people will take to their cars. Some protesters have actually glued themselves inside lorries, and their aim is to shut down London until the 29th of April. Well, we'll see how well they do. But they are working hard on that goal. The Education Maintenance Allowance provides financial support for eligible people between 16 and 19 years old to continue learning. If you are between 16 and 19 and you have an ordinary residence here in Scotland, there are complicated other rules for those who have got arrangements which depend on their immigration status, etc. But we won't go into all the depths of those. But if you are a 16 to 19-year-old and you're a single child within a household, and your household income is below or around 24,421 per annum, or if you've got more than one child and it's 26,884 before the tax, you are in full-time attendance of school, undertaking full or part-time non-advanced courses in further education colleges or education centres, and you're taking part in an activity agreement, then you can apply for this grant, and you'll get £30 a week. Deputy First Minister John Swinney, who is also responsible for education in the Scottish Government, was speaking of this today, and he said that no person should feel disadvantaged by deciding to stay in school or continuing on at college. The Education Maintenance Grant offers an opportunity for financial assistance for young people and for their families, making the decision to stay in education easier. Nearly 30,000 students currently receive this £30 a week allowance, so that gives them a £1,560 a year. Seems like quite a good deal to me, but then that's just me. Who am I to say? Now, we move on to these other stories here. We've got, I think it was, when was that? I read that. It was in 2000, Yes, I'm going to do cat and dogs, but I saw a little thing here. Yes, it was. I knew I'd seen this. There was a consultation paper last September, and now that's been upgraded, and we've got rules to... they're going to be tightened for breeders of cats and dogs and rabbits and their welfare. New regulations will be drafted to modernise the current licensing system for domestic animals. Rural Affairs and Natural Environment Minister Marie Gujen said today. Gujen, yes. There she is on the screen behind me. How lovely. And the announcement follows a positive response to the Scottish Government consultation that I've just told you about. The consultation included proposals to limit the number of litters that an animal should give birth to in their lifetimes and end breeding practices which are likely to cause offspring suffering in later life. Our minister said, we love our pets in Scotland, so it is no surprise that so many people are in favour of our proposals to further protect the wildlife of cats, dogs and rabbits. The aim is to modernise the whole licensing process, making it less onerous on those organisations already doing the right thing, and most importantly ensuring that the system is centred around the welfare of the animals. Communities Secretary comments on the social tenants in Scotland 2017 statistics. Commenting on the latest social tenants in Scotland statistics, Community Secretary Aileen Campbell today said, making sure everyone has a safe, warm and affordable home is central to the government's vision of a fairer and more prosperous Scotland. We remain on track to deliver on our ambitious target of 50,000 affordable homes, including 35,000 for social rent during the lifetime of this Parliament. Between 2008, 2009 and 2017 and 18, a decade of course, 2007 and 8 and 2017 and 18, a decade. The supply of affordable housing in Scotland was a third higher than in England, and within this, the rate of supply for social rented housing was even higher, more than double that in England. There is still more work to be done to increase the number of social housing units available across Scotland. We have put in place a number of measures to deliver that. In addition to ending the right to buy, keeping existing social housing stock in the sector and protecting it for future generations, said Ms. Campbell today. Now, unemployment keeps on falling. It's again at a new record low. And commenting on this month's Labour and Market Statistics update released by the Office of National Statistics for December 2018 to February 2019, Economy Secretary Derek Mackay said, despite the huge and continued challenges of Brexit, the Scottish economy and jobs market continues to strengthen. Scotland's unemployment rate was 75.6%. And I beg your pardon, I read the word because that's what we're so used to, isn't it? This is actually the employment rate we're talking about. So 75.6% of people are employed. And the unemployment rate sits at 3.3%. The unemployment rate is a record low and lower than the UK rate of 3.9%. Labour market outcomes for young people in Scotland once again outperform the UK. Scotland's employment rate for women rose over the quarter to 71.8%. So that's more women employed, and the same rate as for the UK as a whole. The employment rate for young people in Scotland rose to 59.5% over the year, higher than the UK rate of 55.1%. There's quite a discrepancy there. Scotland's unemployment rate for women fell to 2.8% and for men to 3.8%, and for young people to 7.2%, all rates lower than in the UK as a whole. While Scotland's economy and job market continues to grow, the UK government's Brexit plans, in whatever form, will cost jobs, make people poorer and damage our society. It is essential that the extension granted by the EU is used constructively and not wasted. The ongoing talks with the EU exit must include the devolved administration, and for any deal agreed by the UK Parliament to be put to a second referendum. However, as a responsible government, we will also continue our work to prepare for all outcomes as best we can. That was from Derek Mackay. Holiday meals for children. The funding for holiday meals during school holidays. More children and young people are set to benefit from nutritious meals and a place to play and socialise when the children's schools are closed for the holidays this year. Communities Secretary Aileen Campbell has announced £340,000 for 6 charities that offer children breakfast, healthy snacks and a hot lunch, as well as a range of games and activities during the school holidays. The funding means that this Easter and throughout the rest of the school holidays this year, more than 46,500 children will be supported with food and activities. This is the first funding announcement of the Scottish Government's recently increased budget to tackle food insecurity during school holidays, which has risen from 500,000 last year to 2 million in 2019-2020. Cash for kids and children in Scotland are 2 of the national charities that will benefit, as well as local projects provided by Centre Stage, Ayrshire, Dundee Bairns, Dundee, Community Food Initiatives, North East Aberdeen, and Achieve More Scotland in Glasgow and West Lothian. Speaking at a visit to the Kids Activities Project in Kilcuddy, run by the YMCA, which has received previous Scottish Government funding, Community Secretary Aileen Campbell said, "While we provide free school meals to children in primary 1 to primary 3 and to those on low incomes throughout their time at school, we know it can be a struggle for some parents to provide meals and keep children entertained when the school takes a break. The school holidays should be a time for fun. This funding will allow projects working in rural and urban areas across Scotland to deliver fun activity programs for children and young people in the school holidays and include healthy, nutritious meals so that no child goes hungry." I remember yesterday we talked about enshrining food rights into the constitutions of countries. So that's a nice follow-up from there. Now we deal with something not so happy, something that happened a few years ago. 1 year ago. 1 year ago, there was a murder. Kenny Riley. And Crime Stoppers have offered rewards up to £10,000. Scotland Crime Stoppers is offering a reward of up to £10,000 for information the charity receives that leads to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for the murder of 29-year-old Kenny Riley in Maryhill Road, Glasgow, on the first anniversary of his death. Police Scotland has also appealed for any information that might assist its inquiry. Detective Chief Constable Steve Wallace, Detective Chief Inspector Stevie Wallace of the Major Investigation Team said, "Despite the passage of time, I'm determined to trace those responsible for this murder. My thoughts remain with Kenny's family, who have been through enough over the past year." Throughout the past year, the inquiry team has carried out extensive inquiries into Kenny's murder, spoken to hundreds of members of the public, viewed thousands of hours of CCTV footage, and followed up a number of lines of inquiry. However, we still need to speak to anyone who has any information about who is responsible for shooting Kelly Riley or about the vehicles involved. Please don't think that the information you hold is insignificant. It could be the vital piece that will move this inquiry forward. Kelly Riley was sitting in a passenger seat of a silver BMW car at the junction of Mary Hill Road and Bellisland Drive in Glasgow around about 10:20 p.m. on Monday the 16th of April 2018. A black Ford S-Max pulled up and the passenger, who was wearing a black balaclava, got out and shot him. He was taken to Glasgow Royal Infirmary, where he died a few days later. The Ford S-Max, which had been reported stolen from Giffnock area the previous month, was found burnt out at Craigieburn Gardens in Maryhill a short time later. Officers are also continuing to appeal for information about a blue Volkswagen Polo car bearing false plates. They were false, but I'll give you the registration number. It was ERE, that's Romeo Echo 5757, and Echo Uniform EUU. And it was fitted with a distinctive roof rack. The vehicle was seen in the area of Kenny Riley's home in Mary Hill Road, being driven towards Craigieburn Gardens between 9:30 and 9:40 p.m. on the night of the shooting. After the shooting, around 10:30 p.m., the same car was seen being driven southbound on Mary Hill Road towards Glasgow city centre. The Volkswagen Polo was stolen from Mary Hill around the area during September 2017. The day after the shooting, it was discovered in New Lairdsland Road in Kirkintilloch. Attempts have been made to set the vehicle alight. However, very little damage had been done to it, and it has been forensically examined for evidence. DCI Wallace continued, "I am convinced that there are people out there who hold information on Kenny Riley's murder and for their own reasons have remained silent. This could be due to the fear of reprisal or misplaced loyalty. I would urge anyone in that position to do the right thing and look to their conscience and contact us. I would also like to reiterate to people with concerns about contacting the police that this can be done in confidence. We will trace whoever is responsible, but we would appreciate any further information that the local community can provide. Please don't wait for the police to visit your home. Do the right thing and come forward. You could hold information that could help lead us to those responsible for this callous and cruel murder. Any details should be passed to Police Scotland through the 101 number, which you can dial on your phone. This is the non-emergency number, 101, and you quote the incident number, which is 4,332, 4332 of the 16th of April. Information can also be given anonymously on the Crime Stoppers number, which is 0800 555 111. 0800 555 111. And I'll give you that number again in a minute because it comes up in the next story. Police appeal for information following an incident in Victoria Road in Glasgow. Detectives are appealing for information after a group of men were seen behaving suspiciously in the south side of Glasgow this morning, which is Tuesday the 16th of April 2019. Around 10:05 a.m, police received several reports of 4 men getting out of a red transit van wearing white decorating suits with white face masks and seen running away from the top end of Victoria Road near Queen's Park. They ran into Queen's Park with a number of items there they discarded. They ran into Queen's Park Lane and they had a number of items which they discarded. Their behaviour concerned a number of members of the public who called the police. Their behaviour, Detective Inspector Lindsay Waters from Cathcart CID said, "We are currently investigating this incident and trying to establish why these men were in Victoria Road and whether they had been intended to commit a crime. The area would have been busy with people at the time, and we're appealing to anyone who noticed men matching the above descriptions running away or anything at all suspicious to get in touch. We also urge motorists with dash cams who were nearby to check their footage in case they have captured the men or possibly the red transit van. Additional patrols will be in the area to provide a reassurance, and any members of the public with concerns are welcome to approach the officers who will be happy to assist. Anyone with information is asked to contact the CID, the Cathcart CID, via 101, quoting the incident number 0903 of Tuesday 16th April 2019. Alternatively, Crime Stoppers can be contacted anonymously at 0800 0800 555 111. 0800 555 111. Yes, I mean, it would be quite a thing if you were walking down there and you missed that. So it's the springtime, and of course quite a few folk get their motorbikes out of the garage or the shed or from wherever they store them and dust them off, tune them up and go out for a ride. The police are urging motorcyclists, and I should think all other drivers too, because it's, we all drive on the roads. Well, not everybody drives on the roads, that wasn't what I was trying to say, but motorcyclists and motorists alike must look out for the safety of bikes and prepare to get on the road for the summer season. As the nights are getting longer, many recreational bikers will be taking their motorbikes out of storage and getting them back on the road, possibly for the first time for several months. Police Scotland Motorcycles Safety Campaign will promote safe and responsible motorcycling with the view to reducing the number of road traffic casualties and improving rider behaviour. The campaign will run until the end of September and was launched today at the Grampian Transport Museum in Afford in Aberdeenshire by Police Scotland. Superintendent Louise Blakelock, Deputy Head of Road Policing at Police Scotland, said although motorcyclists make up only 1% of the motoring public, they account for around 20% of the people killed in road crashes, often during cornering or overtaking manoeuvres. Motorcycles are more vulnerable than other motorists. the smallest of errors by the rider or driver can lead to a very serious consequence, particularly when higher speeds are involved. Road safety is everyone's responsibility. I urge motorcyclists to follow our safety advice. By doing so, they will avoid collisions. Other road users must keep a careful lookout for motorcyclists, particularly when turning in and out of junctions where many collisions occur. Drivers who are actively apply the road safety messages like think bike, think biker will help our roads safer and save lives. So think bike, think biker. And also, just from me, don't overtake on double white lines. I see this daily. Motorbikes and motor cars as well. Double white lines, you mustn't overtake on these. It's very, very dangerous. The Cabinet Secretary for Transport, Infrastructure and Connectivity, Michael Matheson, said, "We have been successful in reducing accidents and casualties, and Scotland now ranks amongst the safest countries in the world for road safety. In spite of this progress, more remains to be done, particularly for motorcyclists." While the longer evenings and better weather will be tempting many bikers to head out and to enjoy Scotland's roads in the days and weeks ahead, it is very important that they do so in a safe manner and ride to the conditions, said the Cabinet Secretary today, Michael Matheson. So, be safe, put your helmet on, go out and enjoy the lovely spring weather. And I will not be seeing you here tomorrow because I've got to go and do other things. As you know, this is not an organisation that has money to pay any of its people who sit here and do this kind of jobs, nor for any of the back staff. We're merely trying to put this service on and trying to grow it. So if you've got any way you can support us, that would be gratefully received. You can find the sponsorship page on our website when the address of that's on the screen now. Thank you very much for watching. If you'll let me, I'll come back next week and do some more. In the meantime, I think you might see Gordon Ross on Thursday, and then again on Sunday there'll be the full Scottish, the long programme with lots of different newsy items. And I don't know who'll be there this week, Ellen, or maybe Corrie, or maybe someone else will be sitting there. But thanks for watching tonight. Good night to you. Bye-bye.